Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and coming up in today's newscast, we'll reveal how locals are celebrating Christmas in the Holy Land. A new Israeli innovation could mean you never have to diet again. And stay tuned to hear this week's top secret destinations to visit in Israel. Well, Christmas Day is finally upon us, and ILTV's Nittany Manson joins us right now from Yafo, Tel Aviv, the heart of the city's Christmas celebration. So, Nittany, what is the mood like on the streets right now?
That's right, Natasha. I'm here in the middle of Yafo next to the historic clock tower, which is only a 5-minute drive from the center of Tel Aviv, but that 5 minutes makes a difference. In Tel Aviv, you might not notice that it's Christmas Day, but here you get the feel. There's a huge tree behind me. There's decorations everywhere. There's Santa's house, which is very exciting. People are staying indoors because it is a little chilly, a little windy, but I'm sure that once the wind dies down, people will be out in droves. Yafo isn't the only place, though, that people are celebrating. Bethlehem is also a huge center for Christmas festivities. Let's take a look. Christian pilgrims are flocking to Bethlehem for the celebrations. After all, it is the birthplace of Jesus. And just last night, Archbishop Pierbattista Pizzaballa led an annual procession from Jerusalem to Bethlehem, where he held the midnight mass in the Church of the Nativity, a holy site built back in the 4th century.
Christmas for us is to celebrate the hope that is still living, maybe not in the big institution, but in the small ones, the little ones, in all the societies.
Bethlehem's Christmas season typically lasts all the way until the Armenian Christmas on January 18th, and the town has been enjoying its busiest year in 2 decades. 2019 saw an estimated 1.9 million tourists and pilgrims in the Holy City, and that number is expected to keep on growing next year.
If we look to our human realities, politics, social, economics, we have not so much hope because we see the weakness of politics, unemployment, many problems in our families. On the other side, I see everywhere I go in the communities, commitment, volunteers, desire, especially in the youth, to do something for their society, for their families.
All right, moving on to harder news. The Israeli Prime Minister has just revealed plans to build 3,000 new residential and industrial units in Judea and Samaria, or the West Bank. And the announcement comes on the eve of the Likud Party primaries, which are scheduled for tomorrow. ILTV's Shanna Fold has the scoop.
The Israeli Prime Minister has just revealed plans to build 3,000 new residential and industrial units in Judea and Samaria, or the West Bank. The announcement comes on the eve of the Likud Party primaries, which are scheduled for tomorrow. Since the beginning of his campaign for general elections, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has made the settlements a central issue. Just ahead of the September election, Netanyahu vowed to annex the Jordan Valley immediately upon the formation of a government coalition. But now Israel is headed to 3rd elections, and that plan is being frozen until further notice. The construction of 3,000 new homes that Netanyahu is now promising must be brought before the High Court for approval within 2 weeks. Building permits in settlements in Judea and Samaria have increased by 50% over the past 5 years. The growth is believed to be connected to U.S. President Donald Trump's softer stance on the issue. Just last month, the U.S. reversed a previous policy stance, announcing that Israeli settlements in Judea and Samaria are not illegal. Critics say increasing settlement activity is detrimental to the future of an Israeli-Palestinian peace deal, but the Israeli Prime Minister is voting to extend Israeli sovereignty in the West Bank.
The Israeli Defense Minister has just signed an order today preventing the Palestinian Authority from providing financial support to Arab Israelis who carry out attacks against other Israeli citizens. Now, the directive is targeting 8 terrorists who are already serving out sentences in Israeli prison. And joining us now with the details is Israeli news anchor and journalist Lital Shemesh. So, Lital, first of all, where is this money coming from, and why is this directive coming out now?
So it's important to understand that the Palestinian Authority for many years is funding funding terrorists, Palestinian terrorists, and also Israeli Arab terrorists, funding the monies, funding the families of those terrorists. I mean, 7% of the Palestinian Authority budget goes to funding terrorist families of shaheeds. And not only that, the more you kill, the more Jews that you're killing, that you're murdering, the more money you're gonna get. Which means if you're been sentenced to 3 years in the Israeli prison, 5 years, you get a few thousands of shekels. If you're sentenced to 10, 20 years, you can get up to 15,000, 25,000 shekels a month. And it's just ridiculous that the Palestinian Authority is funding, giving money, telling to their own people the most profitable job you can have as a Palestinian is
to be a martyr.
Is to be a murderer, is to go and murder Jews. And I think there's a major problem dealing with the culture of the Palestinian Authority when they're glorifying terrorists, when they're naming schools after suicide bombers. How can we ever achieve peace with that entity?
So why is the defense minister, targeting this issue right now? And I also think that not many people are necessarily aware that that money is being funneled towards Israeli Arab terrorists within Israeli territory or in jails in Israel, right?
That's actually an excellent question. I mean, people are asking, why have you waited so long? I mean, why have you waited for the elections to come to actually start acting and doing measures that will stop terror or will try and prevent terror? I'm also asking another question. Why is the rest of the countries in the world is still giving money to the Palestinian Authority? 2 months ago, we've seen the Netherlands decided to stop transferring money to the Palestinian Authority until they will stop funding terrorists. The U.S. 2018 decided to stop transferring money to the Palestinian Authority unless they will stop funding terror. So I think all the countries around the world should start acting accordingly and understand that the side that they need to push in order to achieve peace is not Israel, is the Palestinians.
Well, it's certainly going to be interesting to see how this directive plays out. I mean, how is the defense minister planning on implementing this? How does that work?
I don't know exactly how is he going to implement it. And to be honest, I have to tell you, I'm not even sure that the Supreme Court judge will approve those steps, which usually they don't approve it. But I think it's a step towards making it clear to the other side, we will not allow you to transfer money to Israeli Arabs who murdered Jews, who were sentenced to prison. It's just simply wrong.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Litan.
Thank you, Natasha. Thank you for having me.
All right. 26-year-old Naama Issachar is still behind bars in Russia, and she's appealing to the courts for the second time. The Israeli-American has been held in Russia since April when she was stopped in the Moscow airport for having a handful of marijuana in her checked luggage. Issachar had been passing through during a layover from India to Israel at the time, and she's now up against a 7.5-year prison sentence and refuses to believe that this is her fate. She's now appealing to a higher court after the first panel of judges discussed her case for 20 minutes and ruled against her with a one-sentence statement. In Issachar's hearing, she told judges she had no intention of bringing drugs into Russia and had not even passed customs control when she was stopped. She also stated that she did not understand a written confession she signed because it was in Russian. Now, many suspect that Issachar's imprisonment is politically motivated since the amount of marijuana in question usually calls for a slap on the wrist in the Russian legal system. Russia had tried to exchange Issachar for Alexei Bulkov, a Russian hacker allegedly involved in a huge American credit card scheme. At the time, Bulkov had been held in Israeli custody, but Israel decided to comply with the American request to extradite him to the United States back in November for eventual trial. All right, now Iran's top-ranking chess player is reportedly planning on renouncing his citizenship, and it has everything to do with Israel. Check this out.
16-year-old Alireza Firouzja was looking forward to participating in a major chess tournament in Russia. But then he found out that Iran wouldn't be participating because Israelis would be competing. The Iranian teenager is not only the best chess player in Iran, he's also number 2 internationally in the International Chess Federation's rankings of junior players. And he's not willing to lose opportunity to play in lots of international tournaments because of the troubled relations between Iran and Israel. Iran doesn't recognize Israel as a nation, and its sports teams have long avoided competing against Israeli athletes. Firouzja is currently living in France, and he has decided that he'd prefer to give up his Iranian citizenship and play under the French or US flag. In fact, he's even asking the public for their opinion on the matter. Now he'll be able to participate in the World Rapid Championship in Moscow tomorrow. This isn't the first time that an Iranian athlete has forfeited his citizenship in the name of sports. The Iranian judoka Saeed Morai announced back in September that he would no longer compete for Iran after being forced to throw a match to avoid facing an Israeli rival. Today, he's received asylum in Germany, and the International Judo Federation has banned Iran from competing indefinitely.
All right, it's time to learn about some must-see places to visit here in the Holy Land, places that even Israelis don't always know about. And they're brought to you by Visit to Israel, one of the world's leading Instagram pages about how to travel in the Holy Land. So here with this week's rundown is Ela, or Ela Travels World. So what is up first?
So up first is the Nimrod Fortress, which is situated way up in the north in the Golan Heights.
Wow, okay, so look at that. All right,
Yes.
I've never been here before. Tell us a little bit about it.
So this place is the biggest Crusade-era castle here in Israel, and it is very well preserved. Dates back to the 13th century.
The 13th century.
Yes, it's situated right next to Israel's highest peak, the Hermon Mountain.
Right.
The only snow-capped mountain in
Where
Israel.
you can go skiing as well.
Yes. And it has an amazing view of most of the Golan. Underneath it, there are forests, the Banyas River, waterfalls. A great place to travel. I would do it as a 2-day trip with the Hermon Mountain in the Golan Heights.
Yeah, it makes sense to actually, if you're going to go all the way up there, to just kind of see all of the sights around it. All right, so what is up next? This looks beautiful, but I know you have something else for us.
Yeah, so the next place is Mount Precipice.
Precipice.
Yes.
Another
it's located right at the entrance to this famous city of Nazareth. So in the Christian tradition, it's the place where the people of Nazareth tried to push Jesus off the mountain after he declared himself as Messiah.
Interesting.
Yes.
So it looks like this is big. Okay, so there's you also have viewpoints here as well.
Yes, of course. The best view of Jezreel Valley in Israel is from Mount Precipice. So only for that.
You should go, right?
Yes.
But essentially, it's a park at the end of the day. I mean, you're just going up to these kind of viewpoints, and you get this incredible view of Nazareth from above.
Yes.
Wow, this is amazing. Okay,
but it's also a place with
a lot of historical relevance.
A lot of historical and a lot of importance in Christian tradition. So a lot of tourists come for this reason only, apart from the really beautiful view.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think also this is another place that you could potentially stop to on your way up to the fortress all the way in the Golan Heights, right?
Basically,
I think
yes.
You just
or you
created
can combine it with Nazareth, which is also a beautiful place to spend a day or two.
Well, this is a perfect place to mention, especially given that it's Christmas today.
Yes.
So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, the question of the day. Are robots taking over the world? Well, it depends on who you ask, and Israel and Japan are about to launch the first agency offering autonomous robots for hire. ILTV's Shanna Fold has the details.
You go to a talent agency to find an actor for your film, or a recruitment agency to fill an office job in your company. But now, a new venture between Israel and Japan is doing something revolutionary, opening an agency with robots for hire. The company called Musashi AI sells robots that they say are meant to bring greater productivity, reduce costs, and empower employees. Last week, the company launched full autonomous robots that are meant to work side by side with humans. One of them even operates as a forklift and can transport heavy materials without any special infrastructure. And get this, just like freelancers, robots are offered to companies at an hourly or task-related cost, which helps markets that struggle with labor availability or have tight budgets. Robot employment will be rolled out in Japan first, and then in Taiwan, Germany, Sweden, the UK, the US, and right here in the Holy Land in 2020. The Israeli team says the goal is for companies to allocate repetitive but essential work to robots, while humans can focus on more complex and engaging tasks. Automation is becoming a part of our everyday lives. In Budapest, robots serve food and drinks in restaurants and can even dance with customers. And Sony has released a robot pet dog. It may seem far off to you, but if you use Siri or Alexa, you're using a robot too.
All right, now diets may now be a thing of the past if an Israeli company is able to develop one crazy innovation that they're working on. Are you ready for this? A fat melting shot may soon be available to the public now that the Israeli pharmaceutical company Raziel Therapeutics has raised another $22 million to develop it. You heard me right. The Jerusalem-based company is developing a heat-producing injection that burns fat cells. A single injection can cause immediate fat cell death, resulting in a significant reduction of fat tissue for long periods of time. Now, Raziel Therapeutics has just received a $22 million Series C stock financing by the Israeli VC firm Pontifex. But this innovation isn't just about losing weight. It could help treat Derkham's disease, which is a rare and painful disorder characterized by fatty tissue growth. We'll keep you updated on when this creation is coming to the market. All right, with Hanukkah and Christmas here, it feels like we have all of the reason to celebrate, but the holidays aren't always easy for everyone. Holiday depression is a real issue that not many people talk about. And joining us to discuss is Israeli psychologist Dr. Camila Folkosh-Lavan. All right, so first of all, why is it common to develop depression during the holiday? There must be many factors here.
Yes, there really are, and a lot of it actually is the lead up to the holidays. Sometimes it's not the holidays themselves, but it's like the lead up and also the aftermath.
Right.
So, for example, financial issues are a lot of times an issue because you can't really maybe afford to buy everything you want. Maybe you can't have the trips like everyone else can. So it will put a person feeling more lonely, more
right.
different from everybody else, feeling of failure.
I actually saw an interesting post online about this. A woman who was saying, stop telling your kids that Santa Claus is giving them gifts, because for some kids or families that don't have the money to buy, an iPad or an expensive, gift, those kids end up feeling like Santa Claus maybe doesn't love them as much, which is kind of just an interesting awakening.
Exactly.
So there are, socioeconomic issues that exist there. But what about issues like social isolation and loneliness as well? Because I know that, there's a lot of pressure to be with family. Not everybody necessarily has that.
Exactly. So, for example, I'm very active also within the community, so a lot of people will turn to me for different reasons. And one of them is exactly this, to find maybe a place to be, or there's no one. They made Aliyah, let's say, or even if they didn't make Aliyah, they just don't have a family, or the
right.
family, they don't talk to each other, or maybe there's arguments. Sometimes
right.
people dread to even go to a family member or like a family gathering. So it makes them feel even more isolated and highlights for them even more how it's not working.
And you're not supposed to talk about this, right? You're not supposed to talk in the happy holidays that you're not feeling good. And also, there are people who deal with, grieving as well during the holidays, right? Maybe you can speak to that.
Of course. And again, holidays are very, very difficult because like exactly what you said. So now a person that's grieving and has a loss in the family or maybe a loved one, yes. So while everyone is supposed to be cheerful and running around, being all happy, they're even more sad because now they're not spending with their loved one the holidays. They're not doing what they maybe are used to have been doing before, maybe
right.
all these dreams and hopes that they had, and now they don't have them anymore. So it's a deep sense of loss that's highlighted. It's a deep sense of loneliness, of pain.
So is there something that is being done to kind of combat this issue? Because people don't typically talk about depression during the holiday season. They don't even know it's actually something that takes place or arises.
Right. So there are a few things. I'm happy that you're asking me this question because it's a very smart question to ask. There are a few things that you can do. For example, once the holidays are over, it's very important to check in with people, call them. Not only with the holiday and everyone went to their own regular life, call in, see how you're doing, maybe go out for coffee, especially with people that are a little bit more maybe already sad, or maybe they do have a loss in the family or their loved one or are struggling in some way. Do lend a helping hand, and it will be nice throughout the year, not just for the holidays, to have this sense of support and to just listen sometimes.
Yeah. So I guess the bottom line is just to look around, see how everybody's feeling around you, and be aware that,
yes.
the holidays are happy, but, make sure everybody around you is happy.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, guys, speaking of the holidays, forget gold-plated coins on Hanukkah. We have a new goodie that you're going to want to keep your eye on. The Guinness World Records have just announced the world's most valuable dreidel. And yes, it is just as shiny and blingy as you'd hope.
You're looking at the most valuable dreidel on the planet. Jewelers in New York City created this 18-karat gold masterpiece, which features 222 diamonds, making up the Hebrew letters Nun, Gimel, Hey, and Shin. And there's even a 4.2-karat diamond on its tip. Yes, you're expected to spin it on a 4.2-karat diamond. Good thing diamonds are considered the hardest gem on the planet. You may actually be scared to see what kind of damage this thing can do to your table. But anyway, the flashy dreidel is only valued at a whopping $70,000. The Estate Diamond Jewelry showroom is behind the creation, which stands 10.8 centimeters high. And they say they wanted to create a dream dreidel inspired by the vintage jewelry from their collection. Well, I'm not sure who's willing to take the risk of spinning it, but this dreidel is certainly one way to celebrate Hanukkah.
Up next, we're going to take a look at the Israeli world of entertainment. Today, we're going to be talking all about the controversial book that Israeli star Gal Gadot is about to turn into a movie, and we're also going to reveal which famous Israeli singer is headed to the States. ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh is, of course, here with a rundown. Hello.
Hey, Natasha. So Gal Gadot is set to co-produce alongside her husband, Jason Vilsano, an adaptation of the 2014 Hebrew novel Border Life by Israeli author Dorit Rabinyan. However, the book, which tells the story of a forbidden relationship between an Israeli woman and a Palestinian man who's jailed for security reasons, was actually removed from school reading lists by then Education Minister Naftali Bennett.
I remember that, and the author was actually here in the studios with us. So now Gal Gadot is planning to turn this book into film, right?
Right. Their company, her and her husband's company, Pilot Wave, which is a relatively new production company, may receive some backlash from the Israeli government, but interestingly enough, after Bennett removed the book as a mandatory read in schools, the book spiked in sales all over the country. So clearly some people will be interested in watching the movie version.
Well, everybody wants a bite of that forbidden fruit,
Definitely.
right? All right, so what is up next?
All right, so up next, the one and only Omer Adam is making his way to the United States. This Israeli musician is huge, maybe the biggest in Israel right now. Adam is set to take his sold-out shows from Israel and start performing all over the States and Canada.
So we can hear him sing in the back. That is the famous Omer Adam. I've never actually seen him in concert myself. However, I have heard from many people that he's an incredible entertainer.
Definitely.
And we just can't stop hearing his songs in taxis here, in weddings. It feels like Omer
bars,
literally follows you wherever you go. So where is he set to perform in the States?
So for now, he's set to have shows in New York, Los Angeles, Miami, and Toronto, but the tickets are pretty pricey. In Toronto, tickets can cost anywhere between $150 to $285. In Miami, they're around $130 to $200. And in LA, the cheapest tickets are anywhere between $85 and $230. And his first show in New York is completely sold out. Now, these tickets, like I said before, are definitely not cheap, considering I went to a Drake concert, and Drake is like internationally famous, and those were $160. So that's not cheap tickets. First of all, the fact that he had he sold out a show in New York is pretty impressive. It's huge.
I was not aware that many people know him, but I'm assuming that these tickets are going to sell pretty fast.
Yeah.
Emmanuel, thank you for the update.
Of course.
All right, on that note, let us take a look at the weather forecast. Well, it may be Christmas, but it is raining instead of snowing here in Tel Aviv. Tonight, we're looking at 57 degrees Fahrenheit or 14 degrees Celsius. And tomorrow, we'll have a high of 62 degrees Fahrenheit or 17 degrees Celsius. And the rainy weather and strong wind should sadly continue. Okay, it's almost time to say goodbye, but before we do, it's the fourth night of Hanukkah, so of course, we've got to light our candles. And here to help me with that is Shanna Fold. So Shanna, take it away. You're here today with a very special job.
This is my job. Let me get started on it.
So how has Hanukkah been for you so far? This is your first Hanukkah in Israel, right?
This is my second Hanukkah in Israel, but last year I was extremely new to Tel Aviv and I didn't have so many people to celebrate it with. So last night I was with my friends and
you made potato latkes.
Made potato latkes.
She brought them in this morning, everybody, and we were all very excited about it. All right, kol hakavod. Great job, Shanna.
Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah. Now, before we finish today, I hope that everyone has a wonderful holiday, whichever one you're celebrating. But if you're here in Israel, make sure that you stay out of the rain, or at least keep dry. Something that the guy in this next video had a bit of trouble with. Just take a look. By the way, that is that guy's wife. She threw the ice on him and
She's
made him
the only one who can do something like that.
I know. I love to play pranks on my husband. I'm always trying to scare him and everything. He hates it, but I appreciate it very much. All right, that is it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.47 shekels to the American dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for watching.